Hey everyone, it's John Powderly at Australian Self-Defence. We're going to talk about side kicks today, and side kicks are again one of those great weapons. Really good to have the reach of a side kick as opposed to your hand, and you think about the mass of your whole leg and compared to the mass of your arm, and it really makes a big difference. So good for being able to keep your opponents at bay if they're on the attack. Very powerful kick, pretty lethal, and it's generally something you're going to go to the midsection, so you're not going to be terribly restricted by your flexibility with this one, as opposed to some of the turning kicks to the head. You need a bit more flexibility. So I'm going to talk about main points, common mistakes, how to prepare yourself stretching wise. That's important. There's one stretch that you may not do much of that I think will be really important, and then we'll go to the bag and just go over some points there as well, just to reinforce. Alright, so in traditional Hapkido, we do this from a side-on point of view, and we're lifting, extending, and so on. So that's the kick. Let's go through the main points. Just like front kick, it's a high lift. This is how I do it anyway. There may be other ways of doing it, but I'm gonna call them out, I think, because some of the ways I see people do a side kick, it might get the foot out there, but I don't think it's that effective. It's not going to be a powerful kick. A side kick should be a powerful kick. So big heel lift, because then when your heel's high, it can come out to your opponent straight. Here's two things that I see wrong. One is that kicks will be done in a, like from here, in a round way. Now that's not a side kick, because once again, as we go to the bag in a moment, you'll see the trajectory is around, and that's not going to do much more than scrape past your opponent. The second one that I see, and I'll do this side on in this direction, is I see it coming upward. Now I hardly can even do that one, but it swings upward in that way, like so. Have trouble even doing that one because it's such a poor pattern of movement for me. I've never practiced it. Both of those, either round that way or up in that direction, are going to have your direction of your foot not travelling forwards. A side kick should be a straight kick. So the trajectory of your foot should be straight in towards your opponent, and that's going to give you most of the power and mass and not wasting it. The other thing, if I do have my feet in the shot this time, watch my rear foot. As I extend, that foot's going to come close to 180 degrees. You know, 135, that sort of degree, up, and I'm going to extend. The last thing I just talked about then was extension. So you've got the difference between that extension and then that extension. You're adding a whole lot more by extending out as opposed to just keeping it in there. So extending the hip, just like your other kicks, will give you a lot more reach and more power on the end of that. So when you put that together, it's going to be a nice kick. There are variations on the kick. We're going to concentrate on just the basic side kick today. Last thing as well is putting your weight into your opponent. If you're hitting a bag, or you're hitting a person who's holding a shield, or you're hitting someone who you want to actually put some weight into, then you're going to need to not do your side kick as if you're going to stay perfectly upright and balanced. I want to kick as if my opponent wasn't there, I'd crash forward. I can't even do that because I'm wanting to keep my balance for this video. But what I want to do is come forward so that my weight crashes into that opponent. I've got to be committed for this one. It's not a snappy kick. I'm not snapping back and ready to go. I'm putting all my weight into this kick. So that would be my last one. Right, let's do some stretching. So just like your turning kick, side stretch is a really nice one. I like to do this you know, just like this on the mats. Up against the wall's really good too. I'll show you why in a moment. So stretching yourself out, just like I mentioned last time, toes towards the front, so you're not putting straight on your knees, and just allow yourself to, you know, slide those legs out. Once you're down there, then come down a little. This is where a wall can be good. If you're up against a wall, it forces you forward. If you're not, just put your hands behind you, stretch forward that little bit further. Hands placed in front of you, stretch yourself forward, stay there for 30 seconds to a minute, gradually creep your hands forward just a little more at a time. Really nice way to stretch. I'm shortening this, but I would want to stay here for a minute or two. Same again, go to the sides. This is becoming more of a hamstring type stretch, but hamstrings are important too. So it's your hamstrings and adductors that you want to stretch here. So you hold that. I would hold each of these for 30 seconds to a minute at least to get a good stretch. Coming back up. When you come back up, you may notice you've got a bit more stretch. Last stretch, this one's a really good one, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Come down to the knees, feet directly behind the knees, and then push back. This is for what's called internal rotation in the hip, which you need to do a good side kick. I'll show you in just a minute. Now, you're not going to like this one. It's pretty uncomfortable. You won't feel like you're stretching much, but it's an excellent stretch for improving your kicks. All right, coming back out of those, giving your hips a bit of a shake. If you're a bit older like me, you'll need this just to get those hips moving after you've done this. These sorts of stretches are nice too, just warming you up. I always used to laugh when I was in my teens and people in their 30s would be doing about 5 minutes of warm up before they started their kicks, and now I'm doing the same. Last thing I was going to mention was why we did that stretch with the knees out is because in this last part of the kick, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to tilt that leg to get the drive out that way. And that tilt is internal rotation. That's external, that's internal, and this is required for a good side kick. So if you want a good side kick, you want that flexibility to do that. If you can't move your hip like that, then your side kicks aren't going to be quite as effective. I'll do this left foot now. Again, traditional Hapkido stance, side on. And this is where you'll see, if I do the kick and I don't put my weight into it, I'm going to bounce away from that target, and that's not really ideal. So if I want to stay in my position relative to my opponent, what I want to do is I want to lean a little bit into that kick. You notice that I didn't come away from the pad so much. Like so. Okay, other side, same thing. Okay, so putting my weight in. Two ways you can strike. You can strike with your heel, which I would suggest, because your heel is very strong, and if someone's elbows are in the way, it's not going to hurt so much. So this one. If you're being fancy and you're going up to the head, which I don't know why you would with a side kick, but maybe you would, or maybe up to the throat or something like that, then I have trouble getting up that high. But you might also use a blade, which is extending the side edge of your foot. That's quite a traditional karate type posture with the foot. That's another option if you're going up higher. I would suggest mainly doing it with your heel, so extending. So the main points again: lifting high, straight trajectory, rotation, foot pivot, and hip extension. I put 3 in there. And then finally, putting my weight into the target. So just one second. Fancier versions, which we'll go through some other time. That one, a standing kick like so. I don't actually feel that it's advantageous. If I was going to do this in sparring or something like that, I'd be doing one of those skip up. Techniques, or I'll be doing more one like a either of those. They'll add a lot more power, and we'll go through those in a future video. hopefully that's a few points that'll help you get your side kicks right. We'll see you next time.